UKLC is presented by Barclays and Curry's PC World.
All right, MNM versus Nvision. We've already seen Monster Rugby Gaming play today, and they won. MNM versus Nvision is going to be our third game of the night. MNM could equal the top of the standings with a win here up against Nvision. And Nvision, they have looked excellent some weeks, and they have looked downright awful other weeks. They have been the epitome of a swing team, a coin flip team. And, you know, if we're to believe the Nvision pattern, it's 2 wins, 2 losses. Is it just going to be 2 wins again this week? They surely need them, especially with Demise now starting to rival them in the standings.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need wins if they want to try and keep this sort of contention for that 4th place spot. Obviously, with Demise being ahead of them now, it puts them in a little bit of a precarious position. So they need this win, but it's against MNM. Realistically, it's a hard ask. MNM have been really stepping up consistently. They've shown a lot of variation in their play. I think we've seen, you know, Harry on the mage pick. We've seen Aragon on the Renekton look like an absolute monster. This is very much a favored matchup towards the size of MNM, and Vision have to do a lot of work to get this one, because I think, you know, you've said it with the scores in the weeks, it's the inconsistency that's really plagued them. It's the fact that we saw, you know, an opening on week 1 where they were absolutely massive with Alex in the jungle playing the Olaf and the Lulu mid, and it's like we haven't really found a true identity for Nvision. I think they're still trying to work that out for themselves, and the problem is we have 2 weeks left of the split, and if you don't make it a playoffs, that is it done for you. And I mean, I think at the moment, Nvision should be relatively okay for relegations. They just need, I mean, I think if they get 2 wins out of the next 4 games, then they're not going to get relegated. So they're in a relatively comfortable spot, but it's still a bit too precarious. You still want to try and maintain yourselves at a comfortable spot and keep fighting for that playoffs.
Exactly, that's the more important thing. I think realistically they have got a bit of a gap between relegation and the spot they're in right now, but Nvision were a team that we were expecting to challenge playoffs pretty comfortably. You know, if they lose here, that gap is going to widen. You know, if MNM and Munster take 8 wins this week, and Enclave is there on 7, like, it's gonna be a last minute scrap for that 4th place spot. And you know that if MNM win, it's like those top 2 spots are starting to get solidified out, and now you suddenly don't have 3 spots to contend for. You've only got 1 or 2, and that's where it's going to become a much more of a rat race for those final few spots in this particular part of the league. The way that Reclamation described MNM, and I remember having an interview with him, the way that Reclamation described MNM was quite, and I think you've already used this term today, better than the sum of their parts, in the sense that individually, obviously not maybe standout players, maybe Aragon kind of, or Vango, maybe kind of look at them individually and say good players, but as a unit, look like one of the best teams in our league. Why do we think that?
Well, I think it's just their team plan, their coordination, and their setup for each other and their objectives. And a very clear identity is when they have a win condition, they stick to it a lot more rigidly than we've seen from other teams. We've seen teams have issues where, oh, you know, they'll fight an objective they didn't need to, or they'll play in a certain area of the game where they didn't need to, and that can obviously cause issues. But for MNM, they have really good game sense around that, and it means I think some of their members really have started to develop as a result of this, but initially coming into Split, we didn't see them as a superstar roster. Expectations weren't super high, and we've seen them actually exceed those because of that, because they make their players shine by setting them up for success. Whereas we saw Demise, for example, with Rifty in the top lane. It was literally Rifty just trying to drag them over. Whereas with MNM, it's them elevating each of their players. So when they want to play around Aragon, it's not like, okay, let's just try and get Aragon to carry and win the game. It's like, okay, what do you need, Aragon? What can we do for you? How are we going to play around you? Let's play safe bot lane so that you have some freedom. Let's pick a priority mid lane to set up for that. And I feel like it's much more about that for MNM, which is really giving them a lot of strength. And it's why you've seen teams like London and Enclave be a bit inconsistent, because if their players aren't on their A game, they don't win. They need their players to be performing. Whereas with MNM, with Munster as well, it's not as big of an issue, because sure, Munster lose to London because sometimes London just knock it out of the park. But for the most part, it's the consistent team who play as a unit who come out ahead.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more there. Now, we're going to be going to a quick break. When we're back, it is Champion Select for that matchup. 3rd game of the night. We'll see you soon. All right, Champion Select is up and ready for MNM versus Nvision. MNM on blue side, Nvision on red. And are there any kind of picks that you're expecting to be either prioritized or taken away or banned away here in these two teams? Interestingly enough, something that we've seen a bit more on the rise on this particular patch is the Kazakhs, and that immediately gets scrubbed by MNM.
Yeah, not want to deal with that one. I think MNM have a bit more flexibility if they want to target things like the Bard from Nash, maybe the Lulu from BB Muffin that we've seen them play. Whereas for Nvision, it's likely going to be those power picks, the likes of the Carthus, maybe the Ash, things like the Set, Volley Bear, all strong tools, the Syndra as well. And you can see already it's just developing here from MNM. They are targeting specific picks for Nvision. And I get the feeling Nvision might just end up targeting more power picks. But you could see this flow out and you could make an assessment that's like, okay, MNM aren't banning power picks. Why don't we just not ban power picks? And then MNM can only take one, we can take two. And that could be the trade-off you go for. But ultimately, for now, they will take away the set, which is something that MNM would do like to flex between themselves. We'll see for MNM if they continue this sort of specific target ban route. Because, you know, I think of things like the Olaf for Alex, the Lulu for BB Muffin. But I think they're just going to go for the Syndra instead, something that can be flexed between BB Muffin and Spark.
Yeah, and actually, they're really heavily targeting BB Muffin. And this is something that we've actually seen from a lot of teams playing up against Nvision. They actually actively look to put pressure on BB Muffin in that side lane, or sorry, in that mid lane, because they feel like when he's not on something that he's comfortable on, he's a non-factor, you know, in a lot of ways. And that's actually something that I think has come true most of the time that, you know, he's had his Orianna taken away. He's had other picks that he feels comfortable on taken away. And again, it is a Karma lock-in here for MNM, likely going for Dreampire in the bottom side of the map, but has that flexibility.
It has a lot of strength in that regard. And obviously, you don't need super high priority and 80 carries here because there's a lot open. You have your Ezreal, you have your Ashe, you have your Aphelios, you have a lot of options in this regard, especially as Harry is willing to play the Caitlyn. But quickly coming out with the Ziggs Zoe from Nvision, which I know Spark is big on the Ziggs, but it's a bit interesting to me because you've already heavily committed to an AP bot side. So that suggests that you're probably going to go for an AD jungler, and it kind of limits, it very much grids your composition, because right now, those two picks, we know where they're going, right? It's going to be the Zoe mid, it's going to be the Ziggs bot lane, unless they do something weird and wacky. So it means that, like, MNM essentially have a very clear picture. So I'm not a big fan of this rotation from Nvision coming out here. And MNM just going to answer. So they have Karma, Aphelios. They have the Karma to sort of soak up the poke damage from Ziggs. Aphelios is going to scale super well. They're not scared of something more threatening coming out. And then you can potentially take a jungler here. Maybe something like the Graves would be good for Ganonica, and also denies an AD jungler, because Nvision need attack damage on their team. Absolutely, because having a mid AD carry who are both AP does limit you quite a bit. But instead, they're just going to go for that TF for Vango to secure some control. And Alex will go for that Olaf that we've seen quite a lot of from him.
Yeah, and he's going to very happily lock that in, start to take away some jungle picks that he feels would do well in this scenario. But like you said, they've kind of given away a lot about their draft already, but maybe they're okay with doing that. Maybe they just have a specific game plan that they want to play to. They've played a lot of Ziggs. I think they're one of the few teams that has really kind of piloted the Ziggs in the UKLC. And BB Muffin feels comfortable just saying, give me Zoe. Like, Zoe's a pretty solid blind mid laner in a lot of scenarios. How do you feel about the Zoe into the TF matchup? Like, Vango actually actively choosing that here?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, obviously the Zoe can apply a lot of pressure, but, you know, you have good gang set up for the Twisted Fate. And if you're not landing your skill shots in those skirmishes, Zoe can really fall behind in a lot of pressure. So depending on the jungle matchup, it could be good. Obviously, it's difficult to get priority against the Zoe, but it's not too hard. And as long as it's just basically a battle of vision control, because if you have vision control around mid for the TF, he can roam. If you have vision control for the Zoe, she can look to punish the Twisted Fate. So I think mid jungle is going to be important here. They banned away the Lee Sin and the Trundle to try and mitigate some of the impact for that for good. But I feel like in this situation, there's still a lot of options for him available.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really targeted much of the jungle champion pool away, apart from, like you said, the couple of bans that we've had here. It's going to be the Bard lock-in, Bard Ziggs on the bottom side of the map here. This very much feels like all in a sense. Like, it feels like they're just looking to absolutely take advantage of lane, get very early tower plates and snowball it that way. That just with the Bard being locked in this scenario, but they are going up against the Karma, so Karma is going to be able to shove back and clear waves a bit more effectively than most of the supports in the meta, and they have the ability to roam down. It's a new lock-in. Hey, wait, hasn't this been banned against Gdanica like all the time? I feel like this slipped through for some reason.
Not that I specifically remember, but I think Nunu makes sense because one of the big aspects of it is it obviously quite tanky for the Olaf to deal with. It's good in those skirmishes, can roll up that snowball, have the setup from the team, and also slows the attack speed of the Olaf, which he finds incredibly frustrating to deal with. So essentially, it's a big mitigating pick, and I think MNM right now, they just feel super confident in the late game. They're just like, fine, we're just going to scale up. They're not too concerned about what Nvision have so far, especially since their main carries are AP. And for me, Nvision's composition screams comfort. We know that Alex loves that Olaf. We know Spark loves the Ziggs, Nash on the Bard. It's just very much comfort picks, from my opinion, so far. And it means that, sure, they're going to be comfortable on these, but in terms of what it offers compositionally, I think they're coming out weaker. And Urgot kind of an essential. You need AD damage in the top lane. You don't really have much choice in that. And Urgot does supply that, especially against the tanks. He has good shred. But ultimately, I feel like Nvision's composition a little bit disjointed. They have poke tools. They have potential for pick. But I feel like if you don't stop Vango from roaming, and if you go into the later stages, you're just going to lose.
I mean, it feels like the scaling on MNM is insane. Like you talked about it previously, but this is like a super scaling comp. Is there any way that Nvision take advantage of this early on? Is there any way that Nvision can kind of snowball this? And where would they look to snowball it if they're kind of wanting to sort of really run away with this before MNM can get a foot in the game?
I mean, it really comes down on the Olaf. I think there's spikes where, the Bard Ziggs can just hard shove the lane. Early, not so much because the bouncing bombs are really long cooldown. But there will come points where you can set this up. I think if you can get an early tower, translate it with the Ziggs into getting more towers, Olaf, Zoe, or a strong mid-jungle who could potentially find picks on a Vanguard Gdanica. I think it's just momentum-based. I think if Nvision find momentum, they have a lot of opportunities to do so. I don't think they're limited by that. The problem is if they don't find momentum, they just lose. So I think it's a lot of pressure on Nvision to really be finding these windows and to capitalize on them.
I feel like we've seen that a lot from Nvision, though. I feel like a lot of their compositions are maybe harder to pull off than they need to be in a way that they never seem to draft normal. Does that make sense to you? Like, whenever I've seen them play, I've never seen them draft something that I've considered just like a really bog standard composition. There's always been some kind of weird twist, something that the other teams don't do, and I feel like that's made it harder to execute for Nvision than any other team, and that's maybe what's holding them back a bit.
Yeah, to an extent, I feel like they've been very varied. I think is the most thing. I mean, they have lent a lot on what's comfortable for them. Sometimes they played more comps that are a bit more like, I guess you'd say, standard. But for the most part, they're a team who very much have a lot of comfort picks that they're willing to bring out. And it has shown a lot of variation between what style they're trying to do. I mean, there was a period where they were just playing, like your standard mages mid. You had a bot lane who was something like Aphelios plus an enchanter. You had melee jungle top that was quite basic. But it's just been varied. I feel like Nvision in terms of drafts have been a bit more inconsistent than a lot of teams where they've found a style and stuck to it. I'm going to have to see if that works out for them here because I can't emphasize this enough. This is pure comfort for most of Nvision in this situation, and they need to look to capitalize off that.
And maybe that comfort gives them the edge in the laning phase here up against MNM. I think really we want to see BB Muffin do what he's done previously, like unlock himself from the mid lane, be an absolute nuisance to deal with, really take advantage of the fact that they're going to have great push in the bot side of the map with that Ziggs and that Bard. Feel like this is definitely going to be a playthrough bot game here for Nvision, where they can maybe look to snowball it that way. And Ziggs is just very good at taking turrets. That's kind of what he does best, obviously.
Yeah, the one concern for me, though, is that with Ziggs, your push isn't actually that great early because bouncing bombs on a long cooldown and AD carries will just perma-push, especially when it's a Karma, who obviously has a great ability to just threaten the wave. I don't think they're really going to have that early priority. So they're kind of waiting for the item breakpoints. Luden's is one where you just win every shove fight. But Lost Chapter's a pretty good point where you get the extra CDR, you got a few points in your bouncing bomb. But by that point, Vango is going to be level 6, and that is what I'm concerned about.
And then Vango can join the bottom side of the map, obviously, with relative ease. It's one of the benefits of Twisted Fate. We actually see him banned away a lot just because of that. That ability to have a global from the mid lane is really strong right now, especially, we've seen it with Galio, but Twisted Fate is much more like direct impact. He can go from pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, and obviously the thing with the Galios, it's kind of delayed, so sometimes they can disengage. Twisted Fate is pretty instant. And I think a big thing as well is that Bango was one of the first players to be playing Twisted Fate in this league. He's one of the first proponents of that champion, so very much a comfort for him. And all he needs to do is find that window, and he can put some hurt down on this bot lane.
Well, it looks like the FN picked up enough information to know that Gdanika definitely started on the bot side of the map here. Now, I don't think, Nunu needs much of a leash being Nunu. And he's now going to head up towards that top side of the map. It looks like Alex is matching him in terms of starting at blue himself, and they will meet each other at some point down the line. I wonder whether around the River Scuttler or whether it'll be a potential top lane focus or a mid lane push here. But what does Nunu jungle do? Like, it's not something that I see too much of. Like with Olaf, it's kind of clear cut. He's got great clear potential, can have some ganks. But what is Nunu's main focus? Like, what is his main role from the jungle?
Well, you have a very healthy clear. You got good objective contention, and you're very good at stealing away camps because obviously you can eat them, as well as smite becomes very hard to deal with that. And obviously snowball can get you away. But also your skirmishing power is actually really good. In the early game, Nunu is super tanky and hard to take down. Like, if you focus him, you're going to have a rough time. He offers a lot of CC. It does become a pretty big uphill battle if you're trying to take down the Nunu, especially as he has attack speed slows. And I think for anyone who's been playing or watching the game for a long time, when Lee Sin first came about as being this dominant champion a long time ago, one of the biggest tools he had was an attack speed slow on his cripple, and that just made him win so many matchups 1v1. And it's the fact that Gdanika is able to do that. Obviously, you're kind of waiting for the ultimate to really just win that one. Like, you just shut down Alex is the essential thing. That is the major game changer, is that if you slow down his speed, it just becomes such an issue.
Harry here. Something that we haven't really talked about is kind of Harry's role and rise as an AD carry. Another kind of a Blue Spirits-like performance from him, kind of coming from relatively unknown backgrounds. I believe he was playing in the Belong Arena stuff. Like he's playing from that.
Wait, I've just checked it up. They removed the attack speed slow in Nunu, so I'm completely off.
Oh, don't worry, mate.
They still have the CC effects. I'll still say that. But no, they removed that from him as well. So forget what I said. Ignore all that. Continue, Sandal.
I'm glad that you had the presence of mind to check, though, because I would have just been like, cool. Take it at face value. But something in the back of your mind must have been like, I'm sure that changed. So, credit to you, Yorks. You were somewhere deep in the recesses of your subconscious. You were like, I'm actually not so sure on that anymore.
Yeah.
Irrespective, though, it is... and we were kind of talking a little bit about Harry. He's coming from a similar kind of background as Blue Spirits, not having previously a huge amount of UK experience in sort of the more established leagues, but has come into relative success here with MNM. But he has got I think Harry's got a pretty cut and dry style. Harry is kind of like I call him like a Denvoxnay light in a sense that I always see Harry playing basic attack, late game focus carries, like pure auto attack move, like kingdom type of champions, and that kind of sums up Harry in a nutshell for me.
Which is why it was interesting, because last week we actually saw a bit of a shift away from that in the fact that we saw Harry on the Ziggs. So that was big for me, because we saw a change in what he's willing to play. And that kind of is threatening for the teams, because maybe you think, oh, well, they're not going to play Syndra bot lane. Maybe because they banned it on blue side here. They're like, oh, maybe they're not going to play Karthus. But Harry's shown he is at least picking up mages, and it offers more flexibility to him. Because we've seen he's very good in these auto-attack champions, but... I mean, this is something we're talking about, is the power of the Nunu at doing those objectives. Basically starting the dragon at 5 minutes. You can heal really effectively off it. You have the true damage to shred through it. Objective control is the key with the Nunu.
And you mentioned, Ziggs known for being a pretty serial lane pusher, but until he gets that Luden's kind of a little bit limited, especially versus the Aphelios and the Karma right here. And that allowed the MNM bot lane to have that priority to go for the Drake for free. There was no real contest there coming out from Nvision. And what is this, is Luden's just going to be too late of a spike? Is there a mini spike that's going to allow him to get a bit more of an advantage here versus the MNM bot lane?
I mean, I feel like the Lost Chapter is a nice spike because you have the mana to just kind of spam bombs. And also, a big thing is also points in your bouncing bomb. So the more points you get in your bouncing bomb, not only more damage, but the lower cooldown is pretty important as well. So, because that's the thing that I've found with Ziggs typically, is that, yes, you have good ability to clear waves, but in the early game, it's like you're waiting for your cooldowns consistently. Like, your bouncing bomb starts at a 6-second cooldown. So it's like, okay, you throw a bomb, and during that time, the enemy AD carries his auto attack, auto attack, auto attack, auto attack. And that's where it becomes a little bit trickier. And if you throw your bomb at the wave, then you can't throw your bomb at them. So that's where he does tend to lose out in the early levels. And obviously the mana gating being a factor. But once he gets some CDR, once he gets a shudder cooldown his Q, that's when you can just decimate waves and they don't really stand a chance.
Been a pretty uneventful early game so far. You're going to see Nunu take a... Oh, wait a second. There's a double teleport coming on the bottom side of the map here. Vango went for the ultimate, and actually Gdanica left them out to dry. It's going to be another teleport, but it seems too little too late coming in from Eragon, and that will be the case. He'll have to dive out. Double teleport from Nvision. Vango overextended. Gdanica not even on the same page, and Nvision take that win.
Yeah, it was a very weird ult there from Vango, because you kind of just threw it down like, oh, let's try this, with no real setup, and you end up trading down. And this is massive for Nvision, because ultimately you were really scared of that Destiny from the Twisted Fate. You're scared of the impact it can make. Not only have MNM wasted it, but they traded down. They lost the kill. Spark only burnt his flash, and Eragon TP'd after he'd already lost Vango. I mean, that's the worst part about it, is that at least you could have had a silver lining. If Eragon holds his TP and goes, well, I'm going to push top, I'll get a CS, well, I'll catch up with the CS lead that Effin has. That could have been at least something. But instead, we just see MNM make a pretty big flop there, and we were praising their team play. That was definitely a mistake. Oh, no.
Somehow Dreampire and Gdanica pick up Spark here. I didn't quite see what happened. Dan, did you see what happened?
Yeah, so basically, Spark was trying to freeze the wave really greedily with no flash, and then he's like, oh, it's fine, I have my satchel. And then he satchels himself into a wall and dies. So I was talking about MNM making mistakes there. Nvision just hand it back, and now look at the CS difference between these bot lanes. That's just opened up even more. I mean, Harry's got 2 plates as well. This is really bad for the side of Nvision.
Alex will pick up the Rift Herald, though, because Gdanica showed on the bottom side of the map. And Alex actually generating pretty significant CS lead. And so, despite everything happening on the bottom side of the map, despite a little bit blunder there, Alex, who we've kind of always painted as a carry from the jungle for the Nvision roster, is generating a significant headway above Gdanica right now.
Yeah, and he's just been farming up a storm on this Olaf. And obviously, Olaf does lose relevance after a point, but this is setting you up to be pretty strong when you hit that mid-game spike. So ultimately, that is what Nvision want to play for. Now, BB Muffin finds that.
Yeah, Nash is here. Vango as well. BB Muffin will get the kill onto Vango with the aid of Nash. But what I want to say about BB Muffin is he's found a lot of those combos in the laning phase. They haven't obviously always resulted in a kill, but he's constantly been catching Vango out with the Sleepy Bubble Trouble. And that has been just forcing Vango out of lane, putting him into awkward positions. BB Muffin actually having a pretty solid game on the Zoe right now.
And when we think back to the Vango ult that we saw earlier that we criticized, maybe this is the reason for it. You know, he had so few windows where he has pressure to ult down. Maybe that's why he was so hasty and it wasn't set up. He felt desperate because BB Muffin has been challenging him. Now has a Ludens already completed so early, considering that Vango is going towards the Rod of Ages, which is a much cheaper spike. I mean, obviously, he's gone for the Merc Treads first, but here it comes again.
Oh, they're trying to combo the CC right now. Spark will get taken double. Oh, wait, no, it's the Nash ultimate. I thought it was like a perfectly timed double stopwatch for a moment, but they do catch them out. Here comes Effin now, working his way downwards. Will miss the ultimate. Beautiful disengage, and here comes Eragon as well. Maybe Nvision just not in the right space to react as Harry, 200 years love tap, and he'll pick up another kill.
Just an overcommitment there from Nvision, unwilling to take the defeat. They end up losing even more. Now, BB Muffin
tries his best
nice
there.
block
but
from Aragon.
Yeah, too many bodies to block the ult. And actually, that's maybe the problem with that entire play. BB Muffin just not able to respond. Wasn't in the right place, right time. Wow. Vango takes a huge chunk of damage. But the second Drake spawns the Ocean Soul. And we have now 2 dragons left for MNM to secure that.
And it's just the fact, I mean, Ocean Soul, incredibly strong for MNM's composition, especially with the amount of poke on Nvision. and the fact that they have a heavy AP damage profile, BB Muffin close there. He's actually going to look for this.
He is, and Aragon goes down. BB Muffin, the one shining light on the Nvision roster. A little bit of a sidestep around Gdanica, and Gdanica realizes there's no way that he can impact that. And now, with all of that going on the bottom side of the map, it's going to be an easy Rift Herald Hextech Satchel for that mid lane tier 1. So despite MNM taking advantages, I mean, Nvision still have the gold lead. Harry overextended, although he does get the shutdown on to Alex, and now Nash realizes he's bitten off more than he can chew. Spark as well, double kill for Harry. It'll be a third pickup for Vango. And again, Nvision do something good, and then they throw it down the drain.
I mean, it's just, it was a nice tower push with the Herald, with the Satchel from the Ziggs, sets you up to, yes, you don't have the dragons, and I was going to highlight how rough it is not to have those dragons when, MNM are going to come out ahead in the late game, when Ocean Soul's so powerful, but I was like, it's cool. You're throwing Herald down mid, you're getting the gold. And then they overstay for a Wolf Camp, and Alex just kind of like stands there as Harry's turret's auto-attacking him. You give a double to Harry, it just feels so doomed now, because Harry's so strong. Enemy team are up in gold, and they're on form for getting a very early Ocean Soul. And it's like, when are Nvision really going to come back in this? You're going to need BB Muffin to find some one-shots, really. Because right now, MNM are looking super good.
I mean, BB Muffin has been playing well, but is it enough? That's the problem. I mean, Harry is obviously a target that Zoe will find windows to take down very quickly, and you can see BB Muffin hovering on the sidelines here. Gdanica is making his way up, and that's a lot of damage being thrown down onto Dream Power and Harry, but there's only so much that one Zoe can do. There are a lot of bodies that can block out the targets that need the help, although Aragon now just trying to clear the wave out. A lot of damage going on to Spark. And, I mean, wow, just finds the solo kill onto Spark here, and now Vango and Aragon can turn onto
HP.
Yeah, I mean, Vango maybe could have turned onto Effin there.
Definitely could have. I mean,
yeah,
there's a bit of poor communication. I mean, that's the thing, is I feel like MNM aren't playing this game perfectly, but it doesn't matter because Nvision are playing it so much worse. It's actually being BB Muffin who is trying his hardest, but now Alex is... I mean, look at those guns on Harry, right? The red and white gun means no.
And Alex is still considering it.
Yeah, I mean, just...
You can see it.
Especially with the Karma, like Karma shields you, and you just stand there melee range, and you just press Q on the red gun. It's like, cool, bye, Alex. It doesn't matter how strong he is.
Spark as well, lacking 30 CS behind Harry right now. Sub 100 CS for the AD carry role, the marksman role, is not a good look for Nvision coming up to 15 minutes into the game. Not really sure how Spark has been starved. I mean, yes, he's 0-4. He's died. He spent most of his time in the fountain. But irrespective of that...
even before he died, like, he spent a lot of time in the fountain, but also... it just felt like they weren't really able to contest the wave much. And it's... I don't know, I feel like the early Ziggs picks is a really weird one when you see a Karma, because Karma negates a lot of your poke. You contest your priority with which, AD carry like Aphelios, you can actually lose priority if you don't have a good support to back you up. I just think there's multiple things wrong with the draft from my point of view, but I understand it. They went for comfort, but it really hasn't worked out so far. And I think this is sort of indicative of how strong MNM are right now.
They're going to get the second Rift Herald with relative ease, and all of that jungle advantage that Alex has built up has felt like it's been for naught as a giant snowball chases BB Muffin down here. He will get knocked up. Harry jumps in, is going to try and find the stun as BB Muffin's ultimate, Gdanica's ultimate will take BB Muffin out. Aragon.
Nice satchel.
That's a nice satchel, but still not the best situation. The Ziggs getting soloed out by the Ornn, 2 levels above him right now. Looking pretty dire for Nvision.
Yeah, and I mean, ideally you want the Ziggs mid to help clear this wave. But he's resetting, so this tower's just gone. And it might actually be next tower as well. I think they can just keep pushing.
I mean, they have the second charge available. 4 members strong on the middle side of the map. Now, the ultimate from Ziggs could come through. But as you said,
that was nice
nice use of the ultimate from Nash. He realized that if he let that go through, they might have lost the second tower here. So, silver linings. Yeah, they're losing third dragon.
I'm not going to call it a silver lining. I'm going to call it a copper lining.
Oh, wow.
That is it in this situation, because everything else is going in favor of MNM. Vango a little bit overextended there.
Yeah, what is Vango doing? You're not the tank. He's trying to go in. Olaf, he's going to force the stopwatch out. Can MNM look to capitalize on this? They have already lost their mid laner. In the meantime, Gdanika forced to flash away. Without the ultimate from Aragon, their team fighting potential is much more limited, and MNM know it. And they're just going to use this opportunity to get back to base.
Yeah, really weird situation. Vanguard just overextended, got caught out solo, not sure what he was doing, and then the team actually were looking to fight that. I'm like, there's no reason to fight. You already got the dragon, just leave. Don't take a 4v5 when you're this far ahead. So, this has not been the best performance from MNM by all means. There's been some sloppiness, some mistakes that I have to criticize, but Nvision have been a lot worse. I think other than BB Muffin, who's been having a pretty good performance, they have been struggling. And the question's going to be where they find that window, and it might be... Oh, I thought they were going to find Harry there. I was so hyped for it, but no. They won't find that window. They'll have to keep looking. And that's the question. That's the question, right, Scoundrel? How many windows does this house have? Because it's going to run out eventually.
They might need planning permission to put a few more in.
Might well do.
And we all know what planning permission's like, mate. It gets denied very often.
I think this is showing how much how we're boomers. And we have to... There's probably some people watching like, what's planning permission?
I've dealt with the council enough times, my friend. I've dealt with the council enough times. Right, Alex getting focused down by Gdanika, and he'll just be forced back. Vango again. Just like...
What are you doing?
Inting. That's what he's doing.
What are he doing? Why? What is the game plan? He's just walking up and standing there.
Even so, like, he walks up and tries to stun the Olaf, who, even if he was in a bad situation, would just ult.
This really feels like a 6v4. But MNM are still winning with 4 members.
Vango's trying. Gdanika's going to be the focus here. Hasn't got that flash available and will be very quickly eaten by Efan. Gets the shutdown. Much needed gold for him as well. He's really been involved in very little across the map, but they can't really do anything with that pick. Like, there's nothing they're going to gain from it. They just took 2 quick kills, but I mean, even with how well MNM have been doing, if you look at the gold advantage, isn't actually that big. It's just 1,000 at this point in time.
I'll agree, but then you got to look at the fact that it's an Aphelios who has 2k gold over a Ziggs. Who has 2 items already and has a Karma with Athene's backing him up. So, you know, the gold difference isn't that big, but that's the scary thing. And then in minute and a half, sorry, 2 minutes, we have that dragon up. And that is Ocean Soul for MNM if they get it. And that is it. You know, that is when things feel really doomed. Because the poke just won't resonate anymore from Nvision. And really what Nvision need to do here, because they just did that before and it worked well, they need to find picks. They need to pick someone off before this starts. And this might be the target.
It's Gdanika again, just caught out by himself. In that jungle, will try and escape here. Gets a big movement speed boost. And wait, Vango's here to save the day. Again, going to get chased down by Alex. There's a very limited amount of HP on this tower, and Vango's trying to dance around it. Actually, giving 2 kills away for free.
Okay.
And that might... Well, it's not going to be the Ocean Soul. They've got 1 minute 30 to deal with it, but actually
for the maintain control.
Exactly, and for the first time in this game, Nvision actually have a gold lead.
Well, that's one thing. But yeah, it allows them to maintain control of the dragon area, and that's the big thing, is that face checking into a Zoe is so dangerous. And on top of that, moving into an area where you have the likes of a Ziggs, of a Bard, is really difficult as well. Because you throw down the Hextech Minefield, there's potential of having an ult come down, and then they engage on you. It makes it very difficult to approach. And this might be a dragon that MNM go, okay, let's give it up. I don't think they will. I really don't think they will with how strong they are. But you have to assess the situation and go, can we walk in on this dragon and win this fight? Because as much as I'm really confident in MNM's scaling, right now I'm a little bit concerned with how strong BB Muffin is, how strong Alex is, and I'm not sure Harry alone is going to be enough. But we'll have to see. Definitely a good moment from Nvision there, even though a little bit messy. And now MNM starting to push in. Nvision trying to answer.
I mean, Nvision have got control. One of the strengths of Zoe is that if she's this far ahead, it's very difficult to face check her because she can just blow someone up. If you know, even at this point, with how strong BB Muffin is with the Void Staff completed, even Aragon and Gdanika are going to take big chunks of damage if they choose to try and go. I mean, look at that. Dreampire takes 1/3 of his HP, and he didn't even have the Sleepy Trouble Bubble applied. BB Muffin really being the saving grace Now Vango Jones here on the sidelines, looking for the flank on the Twisted Fate. There's a lot of damage coming in from Aragon. Vango teleports to the weirdest location, and he's not even in the fight, but will join right at the end. But Harry's already dead. Dream Player's next on the menu. They're forced to flush away. The Magical Journey coming through here as well. And Vango will try and trade back, but Spark and the rest are doing what they can. Beat Me Off in trades there. Danica on the front line. Alex is still going. Not at the cleanest win in the world for Nvision, but neither is it the cleanest win in the world for MNM as Vango tries to get a good set of wildcards off and does. Now BB Muffin looking for the opportunity, forces the flash out from Vango. And they should end up giving away the Ocean Soul, so MNM will not be able to capitalize, but not as clean as it maybe could have been from Nvision.
No, I mean, it was a bit of an overstep there towards the end where they just tried to run them down when they'd already essentially won the fight and got the dragon. So a bit messy there, but ultimately, BB Muffin finds a beautiful setup on a Harry and just pops him. At this point of the game, he doesn't have something like a Phantom Dance or a Death's Dance, so he wasn't going to survive that burst potential. And once Harry's gone, you know, Vango hasn't been doing so hot this game, so a lot of their damage potential gone. This is something I always say with 2 carry compositions, you lose one of those carries, you really start to struggle in being able to offer damage, and that is what's happened here. And now, I mean, they're faking the Baron here. There's no way you do the Baron when Aphelios is nowhere near, because realistically in these fights, your only DPS, your only consistent damage is the Aphelios. Vango can do burst, but he's not going to rack up the numbers. So Harry being alive is so important for MNM, and that's why Nvision can still find windows into this, even into the later stages of the game. But for now, they're at a point where Alex is super relevant. He's, you know, 2 levels up on Godunica. He was 3 levels in that fight, and BB Muffin is still just able to one-shot anyone. Well, not quite anyone, but the squishies for sure.
Vango's gone for a Mejai's, by the way. Very confident. Given the game that he's had so far, has not been his... I wouldn't say this has been the best Vango performance that I've ever seen in my life.
I would agree with that.
However,
I think it's a bold strategy. I mean, if you win a team fight and you suddenly get a ton of AP, great. I guess he's starting from ground zero and he's hoping in the next fight he can pick a bunch up. But yeah, I agree. Not an optimal game for Vango, and he's now going to face check Nash.
And Vango's dead. Nothing he can do here. Not going to be able to escape. Gets dragged in by Effin.
To the 4 Medjay stacks.
Oh my word. Oh god, Vango. It feels bad. It feels really bad. And now Aragon actually forced to use the ultimate to disengage because Godunica got blasted away by BB Muffin, who's very close to a Rabadon's, by the way. I'm scared for MNM. Once BB Muffin completes that item, he's really been one of the driving forces here, as well as Alex, the 2 players that I think, when they do have their carry performances, have looked very, very strong.
And they've had a good... I mean, the comfort's working for them. It's working well here. And as much as I've said about MNM's late game, it's like, when Vango is struggling this much, it becomes very difficult because you're purely reliant on Harry. And it's like, all you have to do on the side of Nvision is just brute force Harry, and if Harry has if he gets CC'd enough or he has the wrong guns, you can take him down. Now, eventually, Aphelios is just such a strong champion that he'll be able to overcome that when he gets to the later stage of the game. But for now, they can definitely find windows, but they need to look to translate it into something else. It is not enough for Nvision just to say, okay, we stopped MNM for a bit. They have to win the game as well.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that you touched on right at the start of the game was, like, doesn't really matter for Nvision because the longer this game goes, the more it favors MNM. So even all of these little micro advantages that they're picking up, they haven't actually turned into anything like game-changing, I suppose. They've stopped a soul, which I think in its essence is game-changing, but it's game-changing not to lose rather than game-changing to win.
It's game stalling.
Yeah, game stalling. That's a good way of describing it. That's the problem that I think Nvision are having, in the sense that it's great that they're getting these advantages. They're taking out Vango. They're winning some fights around these neutral objectives, but they're not actually winning the game with it. But they are stalling, and that stalling might allow them opportunities to find those windows. And we talked about them. We talked about those windows slowly disappearing. Well, they found a couple more, and they just need to make sure they're climbing out of them.
Yeah, in credit to them, they found those windows. They keep delivering. BB Muffin's going to be getting the Rabadons, I think, on this reset, and that is a lot of damage. It means that you can't really do the Baron just because there's so much poke threat. And when that next dragon comes up, you win a fight cleanly enough, and Vision could go onto the Baron, and then that could very much be you looking at a game that you can take. So Nvision have a real shot here, but again, scaling is their enemy right now.
And Gdanica going to throw another snowball out. Here comes the ultimate from Aragon. Gets a big set of knockups. They're going straight onto Alex, and that is going to be the frontline Harry that we've seen before. FN taken super low. Will find the kill. The decisiveness from MNM. No setup allowed from BB Muffin, and that's what they needed. With 25 seconds to go until this dragon, it is a huge win to get a pick like that.
And it's very hard to deal with this front-to-back composition of MNM. Once they engage, they just win as long as their backline is safe. But now, they're getting challenged. BB Muffin.
Oh no! BB Muffin single-handedly trying to keep MNM in this fight, and the health bars are too low. Gdanica forced to flash away. The stun is going to zone Harry away, and Aragon just... Was he trying to buy time? Was he trying to allow the team to escape? Harry's going to be forced way out of the fight. BB Muffin surely puts the kill on him, and he does. Wow. BB Muffin single-handedly keeping Nvision in this game.
I mean, it was just a great chase up from Nvision, despite the fact they lost a member. They were willing to re-engage in MNM, and the critical thing is that MNM are great when they have a front line to stand in front of them, but so much poke was taken from Gdanica and Aragon, they were no longer willing to step forwards and soak it, and that just meant they were vulnerable targets across the board. And Vango, once again, getting caught out. Just rough to see. You can now... I mean, yeah, you're going to get Nvision heading straight over towards the Baron. It's only Vango who's on the map right now to steal, but we have TP from Aragon, and it is coming in top lane.
Do they think that they're going to defend this themselves? I mean, there's another Twisted Fate ultimate coming through here, maybe looking for a random wildcard steal. The best they can hope for. Oh, Vango, that sums up your game, mate. What were you even trying to do? Was he trying to flash into the pit and go for a Lichbane steal?
I don't know. He didn't have a card ready. Oh, yeah, Spellbook, he switched his mic. Thank you, Observer.
Okay.
That was the game plan.
That was the game plan, yes.
Well, if he didn't flash in the wall.
Oh, no. That, to me, sums up Aragon's entire game so far. So, not Aragon, Vango's entire game so far. And actually, Nvision...
I mean, they got the Baron. They're
exactly.
two Ocean Drakes. BB Muffin super fed. And the thing is, they only have one target they're scared of. They're only scared of Harry. And as long as Harry can't team fight, they're great. And now, look at the XP difference. 3 levels in the jungle. 3 levels in the mid lane. 1 in the bot lane role. And they're going to find Evan here, but he is buying time for his team.
They'll get the kill, but it is a big push in the mid lane. I mean you trade a kill... Exactly, you trade a kill for a tower here. You may even trade a kill for the inhibitor turret if you're not careful. The backs are coming through, but this could very easily be a push. They could have been punished much more than that.
I mean, this is a Ziggs as well, remember? So as soon as it gets low, towers are just forfeit now. You see Gdanica running up, but... we won't find too much in this situation.
Can't really do anything with it. FN, it's nice to pick up that kill, but... it's not really the person that you care about that much. I mean, actually, in the meantime...
They do get the tower, though. I mean, the thing is they have a numbers advantage, so Nvision are willing to commit, and it actually has given them a window. Despite Vango having a rough game, he's finding a way to be useful.
I mean, I think this is the way that he is useful from this point onwards. You've got the Lichbane, you've got the Rod of Ages. And honestly, you're being massively out-damaged in teamfights, obviously, by a Zoe and a Ziggs. They're just much easier for them to apply their damage. I think the way that you have to play this is just by... okay, this guy takes towers pretty quickly because he's got Lichbane.
If only towers gave Medjay stacks.
It'd be broken though, wouldn't it? That'd be insanely broken.
Not sure about the Oblivion Orb pickup. I guess maybe the thought process is Oblivion Orbs for 1600 gold. It's a lot of value with the Magic Pen. But like that is like a heavy investment that isn't going to result, because like ideally you want to have a Rabadons. Like think about if there was more gold on this TF, he would have a Rabadons if he hadn't gone Medjay's and Oblivion Orb. So this is very much like an investment from Vango that he wants to win the next team fight. And if he doesn't, he's going to be in a pretty deep hole, because finishing Morellonomicon kind of sucks. It just doesn't offer that much in terms of completing it, unless you desperately need Grievous Wounds. And you can definitely say that maybe Olaf is enough of a threat, but you're really limiting your damage output when you're already needing to provide more for Harry to be relevant, because he is pulling the weight so heavily for this team in terms of damage.
And Zoe is single-handedly zoning MNM off their turrets, and that's allowing them to go for these tier 2s with relative ease. Vango's trying to push a tier 2 in the side lane here. They are going for that split push game plan. It might end up working for them because it does look like Nvision are just happy trading one tower for one tower at the end of the day. No one actually going down to contest Vango because it's already gone. And Gdanica here trying to push onto this tier 2 in the mid lane. So, I mean, irrespective of how these shoves are going in from Nvision, MNM are always trading one of the towers back, which is good for them.
I mean, that's... Oh, seen a fight here.
But it's like a 3 versus 5. You're actively opting into a 3 versus 5 there, MNM. You don't even have Harry. You don't even have Vango. This is like not the setup that you were looking for. You've blown all of your CC and all of your ultimates, and you didn't get diddly squat.
Yeah, now without those jewels, it's going to be super dangerous. Aragon and Gdanica needing to heal up so they can tank more poke. They're so desperate for this dragon right now. 30 seconds on it.
Exactly. Maybe Aragon's ultimate comes back up in that time. It's pretty quick cooldown at this stage in the game. He might get it near enough back before that dragon spawns. It is going to be a third dragon of the game for Nvision if they can take it. Aragon forced to dive away here, dodging and diving away from those Ziggs bombs as the Twisted Fate ultimate comes through. Vango looking for a flank opportunity. There's the Aphelios ultimate, already very low health bars on MNM. Harry, the soul carry, but he has got the high DPS weapon combo to work with. But all of MNM took an absolute beating here, and it's only Harry with a little bit of HP to his name, as immediately BB Muffin forced to flash over the wall. Lots of damage coming out to him, and Alex already starts things off. That's going to be the second picked up, and Harry can really do nothing. Gets chased down by Alex, and Nvision another team fight win. Third dragon of the game, and Nvision suddenly in complete control.
And I can't believe just how different this game is from when, you know, in the early game, I was feeling, you know, Nvision didn't have the momentum. MNM had this one in the bag. But Vango's questionable play and just Nvision finding these opportunities has been absolutely massive for them. Just really great play overall. And Harry just isn't able to get in on these fights. He's not able to do any damage. And now, I mean, Vango's finished the Morellonomicon. Yes, it reduces the healing, but you're really not offering much damage at all.
He's actually just being forced away here under that second tier tower. Maybe a little bit of an overextension for Nvision. They were really hungry.
Olaf was tanking tower, and look at how much damage he took. He's just, it just doesn't matter. And it's like Harry was unable to auto attack that last fight, and so as a result, no one on Nvision feels really threatened. It's really free sailing for them.
Actually, a big play here with double teleport coming through from MNM. Aragon may be looking for the ultimate as the rest of Nvision are now stuck in that river as the very deep teleport comes out from BB Muffin to try and support his team, and MNM have thought twice about engaging that fight there and then. Oh, it's Vango Jones again. Vango Jones on the back line lands a tiny bit of damage onto the Olaf. And Harry just gets almost one. Oh, no, it's disaster. Absolute disaster. Oh, my God.
I'm speechless at this point. Do MNM even want to win this game?
Oh, it's a disaster. An absolute disaster. What is Vango even doing?
It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
I mean, I'm speechless. Actually speechless.
Like, MNM are one of our top teams. You know, I was thinking today this is the most one-sided matchup, and Nvision have just brought their A game, and I don't know what MNM have done with their team. Maybe they subbed in the NLC team, you know, and they forgot to change over the names. That's the only explanation I can have in this situation. And this is Monk back in mid lane on the Twisted Fate, because, like, they've been so much better than this throughout the season so far, and Vango is just playing pretty atrociously in this one.
I mean, I get the idea of his flanks, right? Like, I think that, like, overall, like, makes sense, but just he threw his his damage onto the Olaf and tickled him, and then gave away what was happening for MNM, and then Harry just got instantly bopped.
Oh, he's looking for it now.
And Gdanica drives in onto BB Muffin, actually going to be looking for a big ultimate, splitting up the team, and actually BB Muffin caught up in the middle of the engage right now, but the damage is just not there. Harry can't actually get to the backline, and Alex is godlike. Vango doing absolutely zero damage, even to Spark. Nash will pick up the kill, and Vision win the fight, and ultimately they win the game.
Great performance from Nvision there, honestly. I mean, I felt like the game was slipping out of control. I felt like maybe this was going to be a massive uphill battle with very few outs, but they found the windows. They used the power of their Olaf, and this is a return to form from Alex and a return to form from the roster at whole. Comfort worked.
Yeah, absolutely. And a return to form for BB Muffin also. He had an excellent game on that Zoe, like absolutely single-handedly pulling, and him and Alex, you know, pulling Nvision out in scenarios where we didn't feel like they had the legs. I mean, I think on reflection, we talked about the scaling, we talked about the late game. If I'm going to reflect, I mean, Nvision still had a Zoe who's got good single target damage. They still had a Ziggs who's got great team fight potential. And I think one of the things that MNM's composition struggled with, and we kind of saw it in that game, is if this goes to a late game scenario where things are even and the Nvision is still in the game, how does Harry ever get close enough to deal the damage?
I mean, like, I think the thing is just like if he's hitting the Olaf or the Urgot, he should be able to shred through them, but he just wasn't able to because he was stunted for gold and they came ahead. There's a couple team fights in a row where he got challenged, and then it ended up being a situation where he just got absolutely blitzed every single time. You just saw the Olaf running down at him, just decimating him, and it was really rough to see. I mean, I think there's definitely a point if the teams are equal gold where MNM's composition should just win, but they win at equal gold. Harry, and I mean, I say this time and time again, when you have only 2 carries in the composition, they have to pull their weight. If one of them gets picked, your composition really struggles. If one of them is inting, your composition really struggles, because then it becomes all on Harry's shoulders, and all they have to do is every single team fight, you saw Alex just beeline straight for Harry. That was his only job. And as soon as he shuts Harry down, or even just makes Harry lose focus on the rest of the fight, they can just steamroll everything else. I think ultimately, MNM definitely had a way into this game, but they needed momentum. They needed the TF to be strong and relevant, and they needed more space. But they got challenged in lots of scenarios. BB Muffin was an absolute monster, and Vango really just had the worst game we've seen yet this season.
I mean, I think actually, if you look back again, like if Vango had gone Rabadons, if Vango had managed to get some kind of advantage from the early game, times. Like he you know, he was probably able to find those flanks and put decent damage onto Spark or decent damage onto BB Muffin. You know, that gold card onto Zoe in a team fight should be a death sentence most of the time. You know, if you can find that angle.
I just feel like you don't even need the flanks if you're ahead. You just play peel game. You know, if you ever see a situation where, for example, the Urgot steps up, you just stun card him. If you ever see a situation where the Olaf steps up, yes, you can't CC him, but you can put damage into him and then you burst through him. But instead, we saw a situation where Vango was never peeling for Harry, and Harry was left to fend for himself, and Vango couldn't kill the backline. Vango wasn't peeling for his backline. It just... You have a front-to-back composition, and it became very clear to MNM that they're like, okay, front-to-back's not working. But when your composition doesn't work at what it's doing right, it's not going to work at what it doesn't do well. So that's my view on it, at least.
Sure. But irrespective, Nvision played very well, like especially, like we said, that mid-jungle combo this game. And we're going to go to a quick break. When we're back, we're going to have a very brief interview with Nash to talk about that game and talk about Nvision's hopes for playoffs towards the end of this split season. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We have an interview with Nash ready to go from Nvision with their win over MNM. And actually, because of that, Nvision have actually secured Monster Rugby Gaming's first place for this week at the very least. And MNM now are within one win of Nvision on the table. Actually, a lot of the results this week have pushed the top 6 very close together. So we're going to bring Nash in here. Obviously, Nvision have had a little bit of up and down performances over the last week. Talk to us about the Zoe Ziggs, like first rotation draft on Red side. Is that just something that you felt was comfortable for you, or did you just have like a specific game plan that you thought would work into MNM?
I mean, it's kind of we've played Ziggs previously, and Lucas, Spark is so extremely comfortable on it. And I feel like even in a game like this, where it's a bit rough early, right? TF has a lot of global pressure. Zoe just has that play potential with Ziggs. So where Ziggs can just soften them up a bit and then she can just pick them off. So it's kind of, it's really good for us to get those 2 picks because it allows us to play a efficient poke comp while Alex is just farming, chilling with Olaf.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your thoughts on BB Muffin, because this game, he was an absolute monster and obviously quite new to the scene in terms of this is his first chance to play in the UKLC for a full split. What has it been like scrimming with him? Is this like sort of what you've seen from him in scrims and it's just taking this long to show up on stage, or is this been one of the best performances you've seen?
I mean, when we do scrims, he definitely has pop-up performances like this. So I was not surprised at all. But it's really nice to pull it off in such an important game. But I was not surprised at all. He is so good on Zoe, and the pick is perfect for the meta. So I thought, lock Zoe, and he'll pop off.
And how actually, you take it.
Sorry, no, Orcs, quickly.
I was going to say, so how do you feel that how do you think he fares up to the other mid laners in the league? Because I think that Zoe performance is probably up there with one of the best I've seen. Do you think going up against the likes of, Diva, do you think BB Muffin's going to be looking to hold his own?
Yeah, so Diva is obviously doing really well right now. They're first place at the moment. So I think it's going to be hard, but BB is extremely good as long as he plays a champion that he's comfortable on. Like, he pulls Orianna bans now. And as long as he's on one of his comfort champions, I think he will definitely perform and stand toe-to-toe with the best mid laners here.
And I think that's a big thing for Nvision as a whole, because I feel like the draft today was very much comfort for the most part for a lot of you. Obviously, your bot lane picks, a lot of comfort, BB Muffin on the Zoe, and then Alex on the Olaf. Are you guys just going to play what's better for you rather than necessarily sticking to what's like picked up in the meta in the big leagues like the LEC?
Yeah, I think so. When you're at this level, I feel comfort is valued far more than the draft or the comp in general, because as long as you're on one of your comfort picks, you're gonna just perform well and not have poor performances, let's say. So as long as I get one of my champions, like they banned me out so heavily in the second phase because we emphasized on getting Zoe and comfort for our mid and bot, and then we'd have a solid pick for Alex as well. He's so extremely good on Olaf. So once we got that and they'd already picked TF, I kind of just knew it was a win. As long as we got past the first couple of Drakes and didn't give them Dragon Soul, it would be good for us. So yeah, I definitely value comfort a lot. Even though I had to play Bard here, which is not one of my favorite champions. I think it's rather bad into Karma, but it worked out because he is so good later on, even though I whiffed a bunch of important ultimates.
Happens.
It's really awkward when you do that, but yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, mate, you get the win, and that's important because you are quite clearly in the race for the playoffs right now. There is only one win separating you and Enclave and you and MNM at this point in time, and everything can change over the next 3 games remaining in the season. So thanks for joining us, Nash.
Yeah.
We have to cut it a little bit shorter because we are behind schedule today, but wonderful to hear from you. And again, we'll keep an eye on Nvision over the next few weeks.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great.
All right, guys, we've got our one more game of the day, and it is London Esports versus Bulldog. After the break, we will start to break that down and head towards Champ Select.